So we're going to put that back into this equation. Well, in this equation, or in this example, I'm going to be solving for side length A. I know that this is going to be side length B, and this is going to be side length C. And because what we're trying to solve is a side length A, I'm going to say that A squared is going to equal the other two sides squared, 6 squared plus 3 squared, minus 2 times the other two sides, so 2 times 6 times 3 times cos of the angle 36 degrees. When I put all that in my calculator, A squared is going to be equal to 15.875. And when I take the square root of both sides to solve for what A is going to round to 4.0 centimeters. If I have a triangle PQR, complete the cosine law for calculating side Q. Well, if I have PQR, Q is going to, or Q squared is going to equal P squared plus R squared minus 2 times P times R times cos of angle Q. So, if it wants us to calculate to the nearest tenth of a centimeter the length of the third side of PQR if Q to P is 1.7 centimeters, Q to R is 3.1 centimeters, and the angle of PQR, or the angle at Q, is 110 degrees. It wants us to solve for side length Q. Well, we have a formula up there. Q squared is going to equal P squared, which is going to be 3.1 squared, plus R squared, which is 1.7 squared, minus 2 times 3.1 times 1.7 times cos of 110. Q squared is going to equal 16.105, and then I square root both sides. That means that Q is going to equal 4.0 centimeters approximately. Bellevue is 30 kilometers north of Air, and Churchville is 18 kilometers northwest of Air. Calculate the distance between the Bellevue and Churchville. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I know that one is going to be north of Air, the other one is going to be northwest of Air. So I'm going to draw a little sketch of what this is going to look like. I'm going to have the point of A to represent Air. Bellevue is 30 kilometers north. Which would be straight up. And Churchville is 18 kilometers northwest. Going from straight north to straight northwest is going to be a 45-degree angle. Because if straight north to straight west is 90 degrees, then going northwest is halfway in between the two. And it wants us to solve for the distance between Bellevue and Churchville, so it wants us to find side length A. Well, in this case, I'm going to say that A squared is going to equal 30 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 30 times 18 cos of 45. A squared is going to equal 460.325, and then I'm going to square root both sides, and A is going to equal approximately 21 kilometers. Now, all of the methods that we've used so far have just been to solve for a side length. But what if we're trying to use the cosine law to solve for an angle? Well, you can see in the back of your book as well, in the very last page, it's got your formula sheets, that the formula can be rearranged where cos A is going to equal b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc, where I have the angle isolated and then I just have all of the side lengths. If this is true, then I can say that, well, it's going to be the two other side lengths opposite that are not opposite the angle are going to be squared and added together minus the side length that is opposite the angle squared and then divided by 2 times the other two side lengths. Well, I can use this to create the other two formulas. So if I'm looking at angle B, then it's going to be the other two side lengths, a squared plus c squared, minus the side length opposite b, b squared, over 2 times the other two side lengths, ac. Or if I'm doing it for c, then it's going to be a squared plus b squared minus c squared over 2ab. Now, how are we going to put this into practice? It says that it wants us to determine the largest angle in triangle ABC if A is 14.7, B is 8.9, and C is 12.6. Well, if I draw out this triangle, and it doesn't have to be to scale, so don't worry about that, then if I said that one side is going to be 14.7, one side is going to be 8.9, and one side is going to be 12.6, well, the rule is always going to be that the largest side length is going to be opposite the largest angle. So then if this is angle A, this is angle B, and this is angle C, it wants us to solve for angle A. So I'm going to say that cos of angle A is going to equal b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2 times b times c. Which would give me 21.88 divided by 224.28. The angle of A is going to be the opposite of cosine something is going to be the cos to the negative 1 of this ratio. 21.88 divided by 224.28, which is going to give me an angle of, rounded to the nearest angle, 84 degrees. For the last example, two ships set sail from port P heading in different directions. The first ship sails 7 kilometers to R, and the second sails 8 kilometers to Q. If the distance between R and Q is 13 kilometers, determine the angle between the directions of the two ships. Well, if they both started at P, one of the ships went one way, the other ship went the other way. It wants us to figure out what the angle at P is. So I can say that cos of P is going to equal R squared plus Q squared minus P squared over 2RQ. Or that it is equal to eight squared plus 7 squared minus 13 squared, all divided by 2 times 8 times 7. Cos of angle P is going to equal negative 0.5000, which means that P is going to equal cos to the negative 1 of negative 0.5000, which is going to equal 120 degrees.